Hey guys, good good evening. Happy Monday to everybody. I hope you guys are having a very good Monday. It's first thank you Diana Mirza for the stream of 54. Welcome Raiders. We are thank you for the kind wishes. Uh, Welcome to My Best Losses Monday. This is a series on Mondays at 8 p.m. in which I'm showing the games I have recently lost against various players. It's every Monday at 8 p.m. No. Thank you, Diana. Thank you for the raid. That's wonderful. I am. It's very nice of you. Anyway, so the oh, thank you for the follow, Tranquilizer, and thank you for the follow, Anya Christ. That's very greatly appreciated. And thank you, Agu, for posting that Bella Ciao singing in the chat. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you, Fan Chocolate. Oh, come to think of it, I'm in a mood for some chocolate tonight, but that's fine. Oh, and singing was done yesterday. There won't be any singing today, just some chess. And however, there will be some singing later on Saturday. I got induced to promise that I'm going to sing during a halftime show there, quote unquote. So anyway, basically Maria and two Marias, Maria Emelianova and Maria Partenopiches, are playing a match with Alessia, and that's going to be a big event on Saturday afternoon, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm gonna sing. Anyway, hey Varship, thank you. Oh, and special honor and special shout to Jennifer Shahade. Thank you for who deserves a shout out. Who was thankfully persuaded to start streaming chess after all these years, and she is my opponent in the first game I'm gonna present. So. Anyway, without much ado, let me show the game. It was a game that we played, I think, last week. It was either Thursday or Friday during the stream, and I was black in this position, and we played e4, e5. My standard response to e4 is e5, and knight f3, knight c6, all about as book moves as possible. And this game starts, I was kind of hoping that Jen would play fried liver attack, which I'm very comfortable with, which begins with knight g5. But this very quickly transposed into Italian game, Gioco Pianissimo. And we're gonna show you d3, that's the Gioco, and we're now in Gioco Pianissimo waters. This is about as quiet and as positional opening as you can. And I can't say that white has any kind of overwhelming advantage here. The position is almost equal, but white has an initiative of the first move. And one thing about Gioco Pianissimo is that white is able to keep that advantage for a fairly long time. So after castling, black castles c3, which is another book move. And here couple of options that black can play. Normally, standard opening theory here recommends playing d6, and I kind of wanted to break the symmetry a little bit, and move a6 allows a couple of couple of things. First, it enables black to withdraw its bishop to a7, and also it's possible to chase the bishop by playing knight a5 at some point in the game, and then it kind of switch the game into some sort of a hybrid Ruy Lopez with bishop on c5 and diagonal from g1 to a7 as opposed to its normal position on e7. All of that is something that I'm quite sure Jennifer played many times, and I'm very familiar with this position. So that's normal. Bishop e3 is a book move, and now bishop a7 continues with this. Computer likes to play d5, but in my experience, playing this d5 this early is a little bit committal, and opening up the position may or may not be advantageous for white. So, hey, Ulan. So bishop g5, and bishop g5 is a move that is going to be actually one of the turn out to be a key moves in this game, because it creates a pin on the knight of f6 that very frankly should not be any source of concern, but it's something that one should not be a little bit. Oh, Jen, thank you for the host. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. That the weaker the player, I think it's been said, the more unpleasant it is. And you will see as we go along, and I'm keeping the computer analysis here for convenience's sake. You will see that the computer has absolutely no problem with that pin. On the contrary, it considers that to be a little bit of an advantage. So anyway, so h6, which is the best move, and you will see that the computer here considers. Hey, US Chess, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. I'm honored to have you here. So h6, there is an option to go to e3, maybe exchange bishops, open the f file, and so on and so forth. Jen elected to continue the pin, which is a normal response to this. It's the best move without any doubt. What followed was d6. Stop. So d6, which is, obvious best move. And it's, reinforces the e5 and also allows this knight on c6 to move, maybe to go to a5 to chase the bishop at some point, which is a natural move in this position, or go to e7 and g6, which actually is going to end up being played in this game. Anyway, so after this, knight b2, and this position is now, it's still gioco pianissimo, but it looks like more like a hybrid between some sort of a Ruy Lopez and Italian game. The bishop on b3 is very strong, and the traditional maneuvering that's characteristic for those positions is in progress. Hey, Zero GM Chess, thank you for joining the stream. Thank you. It's always good to have you here. This is for those of you who came here a little bit later. This is my best losses Monday. I'm showing a game that I played against WGM Jen Shahade, who is known to everybody on Twitch and outside of Twitch, who is a great chess player, a great streamer, and also a very good poker player, and as well as famous for her analysis with Rasa Saravan of the games on YouTube. So anyway, it's very good to see Jen, and it was an honor for me to play against her, and this is actually the first game we have played. Anyway, so after knight bd2, bishop e6, it's a standard. This is a good place to make a pause. Here black has two options. One option is to play bishop e6, which keeps the game in gioco piano, Italian game, gioco pianissimo in this case. Or it has an option to play knight a5, and then this starts resembling more of a Ruy Lopez. So I played bishop e6 because that sounded more like a normal game. Hey, Letterby Chaz, good to see you. Thank you. Good. Welcome to, thank you. Good to see you in my stream. Anyway, so bishop e6 is a normal move. Rook e1 is a standard move because it's actually beneficial for white to double these pawns and open and exert some potential pressure on the a file. And, although computer actually prefers taking on e6, I, for one, preferred to not to have the doubled pawns. And here is one thing that I mentioned about black playing the move g5. You see, computer likes g5. And it's a very typical for doing computer analysis of the games is that computers don't know any discomfort. Okay, they are, they are not easily disturbed, let me put it this way. For me, and I was starting thinking right around now, at what point do I want to pay g5? And, I didn't consider playing it here because I thought it was premature. For me, moving g5 is a move that one needs to, if you want, prepare a little bit. And make it part of an attack and so on and so forth. And you will see that that will actually come into play of the game. Computer immediately likes g5. And yeah, there we go. It's Jen just wrote there that I wasn't sure which way to recapture, but b3 felt right. Yeah, I honestly didn't consider that you would take with a queen. And we can hide the lines, but anyway, this is after game analysis. It felt natural, and I completely understand. And if you look here, the computer gives an advantage to taking with a pawn and taking with a knight over taking with a queen. So anyway, ab3 looks natural. Queen b3 kind of puts the queen where it shouldn't go, and knight really on d2 doesn't really belong on the queen side. It has nothing to do there. So I think taking on b3 with a pawn made sense to me. Yeah. Okay, well, Jen is asking, to answer Jen's question why queen b3 bad, is apparently computer wants us to play immediate g5 and then follow with nh5, bishop b6, which then protects this pawn. And basically the computer line here, let me see, bishop g3, and we're going to follow this for a second, sideline, nh5, knight f1, takes, and then computer goes into some sort of an interesting attack mode that it likes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, g5 and g4 maybe, and we can't take g4 in the end. Yes, that actually makes sense. Though very frankly, this position from a human standpoint looks quite ugly. But that's apparently the main computer line best moves are at this part. This queen is actually fairly well placed, but then at some point, anyway. So for me, taking AB3 made perfect sense. So and here is one thing that I find. Hey, KB Khan, thank you for the raid. Thank you for the raid with a parity of 11. That's very greatly appreciated, my friend. Thank you for joining the stream. I have, for the raiders, just a quick note. This is another episode of My Best Losses Monday. I'm showing a game that I played with Jen Shahade over last week. And Jen is actually in chat, so I think we're actually doing... She's providing some more in-depth analysis than I can provide. And hey, KB Khan, thank you, 91, thank you. Let's, KB Khan is a dear friend and a fellow streamer, so let me give him a quick shout out. Please, he has a great stream. He plays on Lichess, and please giving him a follow when you guys get the chance. All right, so to go back to the game, Jen took with AB3 and then Queen H7. And here is one interesting point in the game. You will see later in the game that the position of King on H7 will prove. Oh, Grandmaster Benjamin Famegold, thank you for joining the stream. That's very appreciated. Rar to you, sir. And let me make you a VIP in the channel. Thank you for joining the channel. I am, oops, it would be good if I knew how to type. All right, very good. I'm showing. Oh, Jen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving Ben, gifting a tier 1 subscription to Ben. That's very greatly appreciated. Anyway, yes, go Jennifer. So this is a game I lost against Jennifer last week. So we're doing a quick analysis, part of my best losses Mondays. So thank you. So now Ben, yeah, exactly, Jen. Now Ben can make fun of us both. All right. So you will discover that to go back to the game. Hey, Nikki, good to see you. Thank you for coming, joining the stream. It's very good to see you here. Thank you. Oh, that's good to know. Thank you, Jen, for the Twitter notification. That's very good. Very good to you. So anyway, so you will discover as we keep analyzing this game that King on H7 is actually a little bit shaky, and it will limit some black's tactical options. In many ways, I will vote the fact that I didn't play King H8 here as opposed to King H7. But there we go, the chess.com computer considers this to be the best move. And here at this point, I am planning to play G5, and my basic plan here is to play G5, knight on H5, bring the other knight to G6, play F5, and start some attack on the king side a la King's Indian defense, and keeping in mind that this bishop on A7 is actually a pretty good bishop in the sense that it limits some options for the white. Now, as frequently happens in my games, all of that will turn out to be a little bit too aggressive and too soon, but as you will see, the game had its own ebb and flow. So, hey, Dirkia, thank you for joining. This must be very late for you. Thank you so much, my friend, for joining us. Anyway, so knight f1 is the best move and a normal move. Knight can go to e3 or g3, ends up on f5, and that's a normal Hey, totally juvenile. No singing. No, there won't be any singing tonight. But I have a singing engagement with two Marias and Alessia on Saturday. So if you guys want to hear me sing, I have committed to singing at their halftime of their matches. So anyway, thank you, Yanni VKZ, for the follow. Okay, so knight f1 is the best move, and then g5. Now, computer wants me to play rook g8, which honestly I don't think that move order is that important here. And hey, John Williams is in the show. Thank you for joining the stream. It's good to see you. I'm showing a game I played against Jen last week, so as a part of my best losses series. So bishop g3 is obviously the best move, and now I'm following with a plan, which basically means let's get the knight to g6. And d4, obviously wing attack is being answered by counter attack in the center, but that's a natural move for the white in this position anyway. It also has the added benefit that it's blocking this bishop on a7 from being effective. It's kind of locking this bishop because it's biting on this d4 pawn. Anyway, I'm taking it once is fine, taking it once, and I'm following with the plan, and computer doesn't like this move. And in retrospect, it's not the best move in this position. Even without looking with a computer analysis, the king is kind of exposed here. There are all sorts of, interesting options. White can play h4 at some point. Also, queen d2 and sacking on g5 also comes into play. I don't know whether Jen considered that as an option. But, I'm basically following the plan I came up with way back when I put the bishop on a7 and decided that I'm going to focus onto kingside attack. Hello, Jello Pagun-san. Thank you, follow. I hearts, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Welcome to the stream. So, here the position is still equal. White has slight edge, but that edge is primarily because it's, the king is black king is way too exposed. And yes, as Jen is saying, that her position was really good after d4, and I agree, d4 made me a little bit uncomfortable. And obviously white now has a dominating center, and but black is not without counterplay. All right, so knight g6 is inaccuracy. Computer wants us to play d5. I would say that if we were to put this into some desktop stockfish, the value of this move would probably be higher. And here is basically, if you want, a fight of two plans. White has a dominating center, and white is obviously better here. But black has an option of playing knight to h5, play f5, and go into all-out attack. And d5 is one of those computer moves, very frankly, that frustrate me and frustrate probably most of the humans, because that feels completely unnatural to me, because it fixes the pawn on d4 that blocks this bishop. I think, and on top of it, playing d5, then you have this c7 pawn that's on the open file that looks very strongly anti-positional to me. And so, having said all of this, I didn't even consider that move. In other words, we're still following the same plan that was followed, way back when. So I played, Jen played queen d3, which computers declares inaccuracy. Hey, None Your Business, good to see you. Thank you for joining the stream. And Smash Time Fools, thank you guys. Thank you for joining this. And, you know, queen c2 is probably the best move because it exerts the pressure on the c7 pawn. Yeah, because computer assumes that we're going to play d5 and then e5, knight e4. Let's see the line. Yes, and then queen is more useful on c2 because of potential, you know, attack on the c7 pawn. Hey, Grandmaster Ray Robson, thank you Lon for giving Ray Robson the gifted sub. That's very nice of it. Thank you, Lon. Very greatly appreciated. All right, so, okay, so that's inaccuracy. All right, very good. Hey, Impact Blue, good to see you. Thank you. Well, it was actually nice to see Ben in the stream, and he actually didn't make fun of any of our moves, which is, I don't know, I guess Ben is getting soft these days. That's also nice to see. Anyway, so queen d3 is a natural move. It takes this knight under consideration, so because there is, you know, the knight is a slightly less comfortable moving with the queen on d3 and a potential exposed check via e5 and so on and so forth. So, yeah, yes, Jen, we definitely played perfectly. Anyway. It's very hard to play to Ben's standards, as I think we all know. Hey, Chestnut KZ, it's good to see you. Hey, Mark, let's give a shout out to my dear friend Mark Esserman. And now let's see. Okay. Do I have enough Ys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hey, Ron Romales, thank you. Oh, all right. Hey, Impact Blue, do you mind giving Mark a shout for me? And welcome to the thing. I'm showing a game I lost against Jennifer Shahada the other day. Thanks. It's good to see you here. Don't judge me too harshly, please. Anyway, so anyway, the next move was knight h5, which is another accuracy, but basically it follows the plan on basically getting the knight of f4 and maybe at some point playing f5 and continuing with King's Indian attack, King's Indian defense attack on the white king. That probably may have been a little bit too ambitious, but I always felt when one plays a stronger player, being aggressive is a virtue. So, all right. So e5, which is again a very nice human move, and I honestly felt. This move kind of bothered me, if you want, because it kind of interferes with the future plans. And that's the computer considers that as a mistake because at this point, you know, black can play g4 and, you know, continue with an attack and so on and so forth. I have to say this, and, you know, I still have enough time here, you know, that, yes, g4 and h4 would have been enough. It would be a very nice, you know, it would be a very, you know, this is not the position, which is what Jen is referring to, that come naturally to a human player. Okay, in other words, you have two knights that are having a little equestrian event here on the H file right next to each other, another that's pinned, pawn on e5, threatening to go e6, undermine this knight. Rook being right there. I didn't see this. I'm not ashamed to admit, I didn't think that was a move I want to play. And even from a white standpoint, and this knight is very precarious. It's not being, in serious trouble for the sole reason that the queen is pinning this knight so we cannot take on h4. And this brings me back to that position, on the move, way back when I actually played king h7 as opposed to king h8 or some other move. It would be very nice for black here if king was on h8, because this variation wouldn't exist. Anyway, so this, computer considers white worse here. I really can't imagine that. I don't want to say computer is inaccurate, but this is a very uncomfortable position for a human to play with black. Anyway, so knight after knight h5, followed e5, and then d5, which, if you recall, guys, d5 was a computer recommended move about for quite a few moves, but yet here is an error because the computer line here wants to play this particular line. In other words, after e5 you can play this and then this, and and it kind of gets interesting and messy, but it's actually better for black. I did not really consider this. I was very afraid of opening up the position as with my king being as exposed, and I kind of wanted to block the center here, which is why I played d5 to kind of if you want, confine the action to the king's wing. That's what I was thinking at that particular time. Hey, Worship, thank you for stopping by. It's always good to see you. Hey, Shadok, my friend. Oh, thank you for joining the stream. It's good to see you. Anyway, hey, Buchanator, don't worry. You're never late. It's always good to see you. Thank you for coming. All right, so at this point, Jen played e6, which is obviously considered an inaccuracy. Inaccuracy being that that it opens up the f6 field for black, and and allows some sort of a blockade there. It's a logical move in a sense that it undermines the f7 pawn, also threatens e7, which is actually an effective fork because knight on g6 is pinned. So at this point, I'm starting to be very nervous about my position, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to show this game. This is a moment. This is, if you want, one of the key moments in this game where let me rephrase this. For me personally, as a chess player, if I can call myself that, it's very difficult to decide at which point to switch from attacking to defending. There is a moment here that I don't necessarily regret not seeing that silly line with g4 and knight h4 and so on and so forth, though g4 was a natural move. I should have seen it. but there is a moment here that there was a rather clear, and I think it's, it's not, it's not this move, but it's the next move, where Black had a clear chance to switch into rather effective counterattack and turn the position around very quickly. So, okay, f5 is the best move, and it's an obvious best move. It removes the pin, frees the knight. The e6 pawn is now blocked because knight can take on e7. It was a natural, and I only needed 2 seconds to make that move. Knight e5 is yet another, if you want, inaccuracy that I thought very honestly at this point when I was watching the game that I'm in deep trouble. Or that I have allowed white too much space to attack. What is the problem here? The problem here is that if you exchange the knights, which is what I ended up doing, all of a sudden this pawn becomes a monster. And the pawn on f5 is threatened, and all of a sudden, instead of defending on the king side, white is the side that starts attacking. So I actually have spent, if I recall correctly, a little bit of time here trying to figure out what to play, and this was a blitz game. It was not a very... It was a reasonable blitz. It was 3+2, or I think even 5. It was, I think, or even 5+5. But I wish there was a move that, in retrospect, I wish I have seen, and that's actually the best computer line, which is basically played this. And what does this do? Well, what it does is that first it attacks the queen, and you don't really want to take with the bishop, because then this bishop on h5 becomes a monster. Pawn on e6 is in trouble, and it's going to fall. Also, the pawn on d4 starts becoming weak. And this is the only move here. As Jen is saying that seems most of the line was slightly worse for white. In that line, well, it was better, yes. As Jen is saying, the fuzzy feelings are not a factor. Correct. The computer doesn't see that g5, exposes, opens up the king's position. It doesn't necessarily care of the pins or anything else. In other words, it doesn't have a comfort zone. Having said all of that, and there were plenty of lines that I wouldn't have played as a human player, and not particularly strong human player. If there is one move that I regret not playing, while at the same time thinking that I could have played, it's this move. This is a natural human move. It basically stops everything white has in its tracks. All of a sudden, that pin on f5 is no longer a factor because king needs to go away, because, here is a thing, the queen cannot go to c2 because, this pawn is threatened, and also the move on f4 is technically a fork. It's a fork between the queen and this pawn on e6. And all of a sudden, this move severely limits white's options, and it starts a counterattack. And here is one thing that, and one of the reasons why I'm showing this game, and the game is, I will lose this game fairly quickly after not having played this knight f4 move. It's very hard for me, and that's something that I would really like to get better at. is when is the moment when you switch from defending to attacking and from attacking to defending? Hey, Mandrala, good to see you. Yes, and yes, none of your business. I absolutely agree with you. I think the depth 18 in any kind of complex position, which is what we have here, is sometimes insufficient. Hey, Danny, good to see you. Thank you for joining the stream. So I am. So this is a move. There's one move I regret not playing. It's this one. It's a human move. It's a move that would have turned around the situation and made the position, if not equal, then slightly better for black. And it was a very playable move. But I didn't play it, which is why this is why we're showing this game on Monday. All right, so 95 is an inaccuracy, and I took on e5, which is really a bad move. And it's a bad move because in addition to it basically brings the rook with full force into attack and doesn't resolve the black's perennial problem with the pin, because all of a sudden now the pawn on f4 is pinned, and you cannot play f4, the pawn is pinned, the pawn falls, e6 becomes a monster because you have to defend against its advance and fork. And instead of, I don't want to say a winning move, but instead of a monster move, yours truly played a bad move. I don't want to say the story of my life, but and I could say that time was a factor, but anyway. So after knight e5, the black's position collapses rather quickly. Knight g3, and I should have played g6. And here, you will discover that I spent a lot of time thinking, and that's another lesson if you want from this game. You see, if you look at the time at 1:42, so I basically spent 8 seconds considering this move, but after I messed this up, then I spent 40 plus seconds, and then another 30 seconds to take on g3. I normally mute the streams on, and here is another thing. Most of the chess streams are there is a significant delay. In your case, it was also there is the delay is such that even if one listens, it's not terribly useful. But I think the etiquette here is to just basically mute it. Anyway, so very quickly after that, I decided that finally I'm going to move the king out of h7, which is another blunder. And at this point, I'm out of time and out of position, and and that bishop on a7 never actually came into play. And at this point, I don't know if I resigned or ran out of time, but doesn't matter. This is a hopelessly, lost position for black. Yeah, exactly. Since you stream poker, some chess streams are, have a less of a delay, but even there it's 10 to 15 seconds in a 3+2 game. It's not terribly useful. Sometimes if I play somebody I know, or it's more of a friendly game, I have, I monitor the stream. But normally I mute it out. So anyway, so yeah, Danny, I agree with you. This taking on e5 was really, hey, Marshmallow Fury, thank you for joining the stream. It's good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Yes, that's a really bad move, but it's it indicates something else, if you want, not necessarily a blunder. It indicates a failure to recognize when to switch into attack. You see, this is an attacking move. Yeah, and bad as it is, this is a defending move. In other words, I remove an immediate threat and, a piece that's kind of has a strong position and so on and so forth. So in retrospect, and Dan is exactly right, the problem with this position is, yeah, and Jen is exactly right, and Dan is exactly right. Captures of an opponent's strong piece when you're low on time, though, yes, I have the famous too old, too slow emote, and I'm going to actually spam it, into my own chat. It indicates a failure to switch from defense into attack. And, I didn't see it, and I don't regret not seeing it. I'll make many, many, many more worse blunders than this one. But, and this is why I'm showing this, is it's very hard to see sometimes when to switch modes as a human player, and obviously I misevaluated this position because after rook e5, all of a sudden there are threats everywhere. e7 is a threat, taking on f5 is a threat, this bishop is all of a sudden strong, and knight comes on e3, and this is all of a sudden fickle. I should not have, under any circumstances, allowed that rook to come to e5. And that, if you want, is a failure to properly evaluate the position. Hey, Amadeus Burrito, thank you. That's a good idea. We should probably do that next time. It would be great if Jen is up to it. Anyway, so, this was my first, and hopefully Jen and I'll play again and I'll have a better showing. If you look at the overall game, I have to make one observation. This is basically the moment when decision was made to play with this yeah. Well, Jen, let's be frank here. You are a WGM. You are a significantly stronger player than I am. You beating me is to be expected, and it's going to be expected. I would be lucky to win one game out of 20. Hey, Ladnayana, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Neil, welcome to my best losses Monday. I'm showing a game I played against Jen Shahade. So I'm not necessarily upset, and even with this stupid King H7 move, I think this plan of switching to king side and going to the king side attack, I don't regret it. I misplayed it, but in retrospect, I don't think it was a bad plan. Jen came through the center quicker than I came through on the wing, which is normal, and I missed few opportunities. And there were several opportunities here to make this, if you want, a more competitive game. So that's my loss against Jen. And first I want to thank Jen for coming to the stream. That was very nice of you. I know how busy you are, and thank you for the game. This needs to be said, and I think I'm gonna say this one more time. When I was of the age that average person on Twitch is, which is in my late teens, early 20s, I remember playing a youth board for a Belgrade chess club to be able to play in a simul against Grandmaster Ljubomir Ljubojevic. which incidentally was, I ended up having a one position that I ultimately lost, which sounds like a story of my life, but that's beside the point. I'm truly amazed that we can play on a very short notice many games against extremely strong players, against a 5-time US champion like Hikaru Nakamura, that we can play against Danya Naroditsky, which is the next game I'll show, against one of the best women chess players in the country like Jen. And, let me put it this way, we in 2020 we got it made. I'm very happy that we live in 2020, and and obviously disregarding the small corona problem, which will survive, these are not the worst of times for online chess, and just playing chess online is amazing. Okay, so that was this game. Lesson learned, look for chances to counterattack. Hey, Kimi321456. Yes, it's, I guess, not so famous. Nicola, thank you. It's good to have you guys here, and it's good to stream. And, figure out how to sense the moment when it's appropriate to switch from attack to defense, and vice versa. Hey, Stuart Debut, thank you for joining the stream. Welcome to my best losses Monday. It's every Monday at 8 p.m. Hey, Kimi, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Okay, so the second game I'm going to show is a game I actually played only yesterday, I think. Hey, Abdul Mohammed, thank you for joining the stream. It's good to see you. That I'm playing against Danya, Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, that I've played a lot of games against, and it was a rather interesting game, and in many ways it follows the same lines as the game we just seen that was played against Jen. All right, so without much further ado, it's e4, e5, bishop c4, knight f6. It's Berlin defense, bishop's opening according to our dear friend Stockfish, and the position is equal. Okay, c6 is actually a common plan here. In other words, thank you, none your business. That's it's funny. Well, I don't know. Best draws. Actually, I may add another series called My Best Draws. Anyway, so c6 and then d5. This is all more or less common theoretical moves. Bishop to b3, bishop on d6. And at this point, Dirkie was kind enough to thank Jen for the good game, and I thanked Jen after the game and so on. And I think she played an exemplary game. Forget what computer was saying. It's normal for some counterplay to emerge. It's up to. Anyway, all right, so bishop d6, knight c3. This is now starting to be boring. I was supposed to play d4. Okay, thank you. I don't necessarily care. Castle, and d4 is here the best move. Hey, Julian Landau, thank you for joining the stream. Let's give a shout out to my dear friend and fellow streamer Julian Landau. He is a very strong FM, and please visit his stream. The games he plays are very instructive. Anyway, so this is one of those positions that Daniel always likes to play, in which white is conceding a little bit of center, but has a very strong position and can basically open it up fairly quickly. This is the position that Grandmaster Naroditsky actually likes to play. And hey, Julian, thank you for the subscribing with tier 1. Thank you so much. It's good to see you, and thank you for the sub. I have actually played over close to 40 games with Danya, and I think I'm starting to getting some sort of understanding of his style. Please don't clip this and tell him this, but this is the type of the positions that he actually likes. Okay. All right, bishop g4 is inaccuracy. I'm supposed to play c5. Okay. I was kind of hoping to double his pawns here and also develop a bishop. Knight g3. And I'm going to say one thing about Danya's style, especially when he plays a weaker player like myself. When one plays Danya, who is first very fast, and second very strong, and third actually a positional player, though with impeccable tactics, one feels a little bit like being slowly choked to death by a python. Okay. I think it used to be associated with Karpov. It's imperceptible improvements in position that all of a sudden you haven't really made any errors or really any positional blunders, or much less tactical blunders, but you discover that all of a sudden, you are, -3 in this position. And this is a perfect example of such a game. Anyway, so, okay, knight d7, fine, computer like c5. I honestly don't even want to stop the stream to figure out why computer likes c5 so much, to be very brutally honest with you. That's fine. h3 is normal, bishop e6. And I actually like to play these positions in which I have a doubled e pawns and open f file. I have discovered that I play that a lot in quite yes, Dirk, boa constrictor players. That's exactly the right term. Yes, Danya is a boa constrictor player, definitely, and that's a compliment. That's actually a huge compliment. Anyway, so yes, you basically, for all intents and purposes, have sacrificed a pawn because these doubled pawns are doubled, and on top of it, with f pawn not being existent and d pawn being on d4, you will never be able to fix those doubled pawns. But in exchange, yes, of course, Abdul Khomeini, I want to, get rid of this b3 bishop. So anyway, because it is very strong. I also could have played knight c5 and so on, but this is fine. I actually like to play this position. Because this doubled pawns actually control the center very effectively, because you see double e pawns control f4 and f5 and d4 and d5, and in other words, they exercise control over center, and I'll deal with them when in the end game when I need to. All right, so that's Danya takes, I take, and nh2 is the move. It prepares knight g4 and knight h5 at some point, and basically white is kind of ready to take advantage of this very strong bishop on c1, which is like King's Indian white bishop on c8. It's a very well developed without ever moving its original position. All right, so I played knight e7, and c5 is best for reasons that are not important. Knight g4, exchange, knight f6 is the best move, and and the computer considers this position slightly equal. I actually consider this position slightly better for white positionally, but this position is also black has dynamic chances associated with the f file, and you will see that actually did come into play. All right, so knight e2, rook f7. The plan to hit on the f file is being executed. Bishop d2. Computer prefers knight h5. This is all still normal position for black and white. Yeah, none of your business. But truth be told, whether you lose in, I actually lasted 29 moves here. Whether you lose in 14 or 29, it's, well, okay, I guess it's slightly better to lose in 29 moves. Anyway, but it ended up being a pretty interesting game. You guys will see this. So rook af8, and pushing the original plan. c3 undermines this position on d4, and here is a question that black has. And that's, if you want, a positional question. A positional question here is, why wouldn't I let white took on d4? Because, that will first take care of my doubled pawns. And more importantly, all of a sudden, this bishop on d6, from being basically a tall pawn, becomes a pretty strong piece. In other words, you can almost say that white would be doing black a favor by taking on d4, and that's basically what the computer also indicates. And the only thing that black needs to worry about is not to allow any fork ideas with e5 after black takes ed4. All right, so knight d7, which is a good move, and here position starts to look a little bit equal. And knight g4. All right, we are good, hitting this, hitting pawn on e6. And here is the move that, if you want, is a little bit out of ordinary. Hey, Julian. Oh, I'm glad. How do boa constrictors taste? Since, I never had one. Anyway, just kidding. So, yeah, Julian is saying that he's eating boa constrictors for breakfast. So, yes, I hear you. Anyway, so I decided to mix it up a little bit, which is, and you will discover that computer actually likes this. It's a third best move after bishop on c5 and so on and so forth. And it takes advantages of the dynamism of this position. And I'll actually show, which is rook f4. So what's the idea here? Why did I play this? Well, I play this because, if white takes, which, all of a sudden, the dynamics of the position change, and all of that changes into white's favor. This is I'm going to show you this bf4 line, and you guys, it's takes, and then plays c5. Then at some point, black can play f3. This knight needs to withdraw somewhere. And there is a pretty strong attack against white king that all of a sudden appears for the price of an exchange. That's the type of trade-off that I'm always willing to make. And Daniel was kind enough to analyze this game briefly, and he said he really liked this game, or liked this move. And he decided not to take. And, so here is one key position in this game, which is one of the reasons why I'm showing you this. Okay. Basically black has forced white queen to retreat, and this position is equal, and I'm not even sure that black is not better. But the question here is, how do you, follow the, how do you follow up with the attack? So I kind of did a version of, Alekhine's gun, and I played queen f7, which is here considered a mistake. Computer likes a retreat to bishop to f7. I personally, probably would have preferred to play something along the lines of queen h4, which is the 5th line according to the computer. And so on and so forth. That ended up not what was played. I played after 30 seconds of thinking. I ended up playing queen f7, which is actually really a subpar move by computer standards and everything else. But, so what happened next is he took on d4, which is the best move. I took, and my bishop all of a sudden opened up. And, he took on f4 this time around, because now I cannot take with a pawn anymore. And, taking with the bishop appeared to me natural as opposed to taking with a queen, but that's fine. And here is, so what happened here is that I ended up in a subpar version of the variation I showed a couple of moves ago, in which there would be a pawn of f4 as opposed to bishop, and there would be a threat of f3, and so on and so forth. And here is an interesting thought. If there would be possible in chess to change this bishop into a pawn, it would have been actually better for black, because this knight would have been threatened, and f3 would he follow, and so on and so forth. Anyway, he played e5. I took, which was a natural move, and then after several natural moves, queen g6, which aims on d3, aims on g3. It's actually g6 is the best place for the king in this position. He played an h5, which was, it was a very, very, very good move, because he threatens to play queen g4, and at which point I kind of have to exchange, because I cannot really effectively defend e6 and g7, and f4 is coming. If that diagonal from b8 to h2 stops, gets blocked, I'm here in trouble. JZ Rider, well, let me put it this way. I don't think it's really completely lost. It's definitely infinitely uncomfortable position, but the position still, and you will see it in a few minutes, the position actually still has some bite in it. And so here is, and I have 24 seconds. And surprisingly enough, I actually played a move that's actually my favorite move in the whole game, um, which is the move, Rook f5. Rook f5 is one of those moves that, if you want to save your memory of a game you lost, because this is a really good move. It forces white to, make a couple of choices. The best move here is to, this is what computer says, is to, go back to g3. And let's put it this way, for a human, it's very hard to make that move, because the natural move after knight on g3 is to play rook on g5. And I actually remember seeing that in the game, and all of a sudden, white is now facing a worse version of the position in which rook, or position before knight came to h5, with the rook being on g5, and basically white wasted 2 tempi to bring the black rook from f8 to g5, which actually stands better. In other words, it would require, I don't want to say white to admit defeat and retreat, but it's a very uncomfortable decision to make for white. And here is to circle back to the discussion we had about the game with Jen. This is a moment when black is not defending anymore, okay? Because, all the moves, g6, this is now black starts a counterattack. Hey, Ankh the Awesome, thank you for the follow. So I'm very, it's going to come across as bashful. It's going to come as, I'm pretty proud of this move, but let's look at this position from a white standpoint. If it doesn't want to play knight g3, and here is the line knight g3, rook g5, when white is better, but it's a pretty unpleasant position. The game Danya ended up playing was f4, which frankly computer considers a blunder, and it is a blunder. But, and this is why it's tough for mere mortals to play against grandmasters. And one of the reasons why I'm actually showing this game. I actually knew that f4 at that time was not a good move. And it will be obvious in a couple of seconds why it's not a good move. But it's very hard to, it's one thing to see that the position is turned, or the position is now better. It's much harder to, if you want to prove it to the grandmaster that the position is actually now better for you. And next Monday, I'm going to show 2 games, 2 among the many games that I lost against the Grandmaster Aman Hambleton, in which I have a completely winning position, yet he manages to win the game because, it's of, if you want, inability to prove that one has a better position. Anyway, so computer here likes bishop c7. I'm going to be blunt and say, okay, thank you. I don't, it's fine. I honestly didn't even consider that as a candidate move, because you have this, it can take on e6, and these the knight and a bishop are kind of lined up in a geometric pattern, and so on and so forth. I honestly didn't even consider bishop c7 as a move. That might be my failure as a player. Anyway, so I played rook h5, which is a mistake. Thank you. And just to illustrate what I mean, I'm actually going to show you the computer discussion. Okay, so queen e6, and then queen e6, rook takes an h6, the rook takes an h5, and then, you know, it becomes messy here, king f7 here. Is black better? Yes, black is better. I am... You know, I frankly, I didn't even look there. This was just, very frankly, even if I looked and it had 13 or 15 seconds, I have discovered that, you know, how do you prevent, you know, rook e7? Yes, you can play rook d5 and so on and so forth. There is no way I would be able to calculate this in 13 seconds. So anyway, yes, JZ Ryder, Grandmaster Naroditsky can be beaten. Actually, I have won a couple of games against him. So yes, he can be beaten. But you know, to beat a boa constrictor, you need to stay on top of your toes throughout the whole game. Yeah, exactly, none of your business. If you play correctly in the end game for the next 20 moves, then it's a draw, but I'm going to require you to prove you know how to do that in order for you to get the draw. Yes, that's a great quote. Thank you. All right, so I played, you know, what appeared more logical to me, which is still a very good move. Takes an h5 and takes an e5. And here is one of the things that I love about the computers. You know, now this is equal, and the most natural move in the history of universe is this. And all of a sudden, the evaluation changes significantly. So yeah, you could take on e5, but this is, I chose this because you threaten rook e3, at which point you take here, and there are a couple of other threats. And here is, all of a sudden, it is black who is back attacking, and it's white who needs to defend. And here is, if you want, when you will see that when I basically dropped the ball on this game, or didn't see the move that would have been really, really effective. All right, rook f3 is a natural move, inaccuracy or not, whether rook f4 or rook f3 is really, you know, not that important. The idea is the same, to bring this rook from f1 to defend. And the rook h5, I thought I can play this. Rook h4 was actually a better move, but again, evaluation says that this is that rook h4 is fine. Well, it was a better move. I think rook h5 was perfectly fine. Hey, Tubekere, thank you for joining the stream. It's good to see you. Anyway, so yes, so doubling the rook, potential threats to f1, and that's actually a really, really not a good move. And here is why. And I didn't see this in the game. And why black has one move that basically, I don't want to say win the game, but creates a rather unpleasant attack, which is queen h6. And I'm gonna play the, you know, the computer line, which is queen h4, rook h1, you know, and then you have this, and you know, this is forced. Queen queen e2 is not exactly forced, but really unpleasant. You take on f1, take on d2, or better yet, in other words, all these pawns, pawn on b2, pawn on d3, pawn on e5, are threatened, and this position is black's to lose, something along these lines. Okay, this, and and here is one thing to consider. What exactly does white play here? That knight and queen are actually a very good couple, if you want. They are they cooperate really, really well, and I'm not going to say that they're stronger than queen and a rook, but they can be. So going back to the actual game, okay. So of course, and this is why I didn't. This ended up being on today's show. It's hey, Peter Balkus, thank you. Good to see you too. So I obviously at this point I didn't have time, and I also managed not to to mess this up. So I played rook e5 and realized that he has queen e5, at which point the position is resignable. So there you go. And obviously I can't take, because rook f8 is, after if I take rook f8 is mate, at which point I resign the game, because in other words, I messed, if you want to say this, I messed this up exactly. Okay, so let me go back to this position, or let's put it this way, this position. And this is, I don't want to reinforce too much this lessons learned thing, but you see, this is a queen g6 is a really good move. It's the best move. Okay, according to computer, it really is. Knight h5 is a good move. I think rook f8 is actually an excellent move. The f4 is not a good move, and the rook h5 is an excellent move. Take, and rook h3 is an excellent move. So this is like 4 excellent moves in a row. And okay, I'm gonna consider this inaccuracy. So what I'm trying to say here, and I'm not gonna consider this, is, and that's the challenge, if you want, for myself, if you want lesson learned. To beat somebody as strong as Grandmaster Naroditsky, Danya, requires... it's not enough to play 5 best moves in a row, even in a very dynamic position like this. And in all honesty, even if I found, and I'm being honest about myself, even if I found queen h6, I have 10 seconds on the clock. And yes, it's a 5-second increment, but whether I would be able to navigate, he plays queen e4, rook h1, queen f2, this, and you will see this next week in the games I played against Grandmaster Hambleton, and I think Nanya Business 64 put it very succinctly. You have to beat him several times in the same game. I'm not so sure that I would be able to actually bring together all the necessary moves I would have to, I played 4 or 5 best moves in a row. I played a blunder afterwards, which is normal for somebody who is somebody of my strength. It would probably take another 5 or even 10 best moves to get this attack to fruition. And, with 10 seconds, I think I need to learn how to do that. And, I don't necessarily consider my play here to be weak. And I think some moves I think this, rook f4 was a very good, if you want, inspired move. Sacrificing an exchange for dynamic advantages. And, this is position, couple of moves like here, it's basically dead equal. This is move 17. I'm very happy to take a game in which I'm equal on the move 17 against Grandmaster, any Grandmaster, much less a strong Grandmaster like Grandmaster Naroditsky. And, all in all, these moves are all okay, but, it's enough to make one, but I kind of considered, to miss a key move, and, this is a blunder, so I'm not even considering this, to lose a game. And, hi, Amadant. It's good to see you. Thank you. Yes. If you, put yourself in a position with GMs and then, you learn from the experience. That's actually exactly right. And you don't get that many chances. So, anyway, the lesson learned here is, if you want, you need to continue to play it inspiredly to do this. No honor among thieves, stole the quote from Hamilton. Okay. Hey, Melissa, it's good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for joining the stream. So my final takeaway from this game is, opening was perfectly fine. I consider even this defense to be adequate. I took one advantage of one blunder he made, in other words, and he was actually the first to admit that he didn't see rook h3. And that's one thing that I love about Grandmaster Naroditsky. He is completely upfront about what his thoughts are, and he is willing to analyze the game, which is very nice. And everything, he's a very nice person and a great grandmaster, and it's an honor for me to play against him. So again, and this is why I'm showing this with the game I showed against Jennifer, is I think at this point I switched, when I played rook h5, into the defense mode. I have an excuse that it was only 11 seconds. I really wasn't thinking about how to mate the king because I didn't think it possible. White king is actually surprisingly weak here, but that's not immediately obvious. And if you want my attacking vision, oh, thank you, Jane Allman. I appreciate that. Yes, I'm pretty proud of it. But I think an overlying topic of this stream is, if you want memo to self, is Nikola better learn to recognize when is the moment when the position switches from from defending to attack. And here I switched into defense, and instead of thinking in terms of playing, trusting the knight to defend f8 and playing queen h6 and attacking the white king. I didn't see that at all. That was actually a surprise to me when I looked at the computer analysis. Hey, Halvard, it's good to see you. Thank you. Yes, yes, Melissa, that's exactly right. And let me get Melissa, MVP. Thank you. And yeah, well, no, in all honesty, JZ Rider, I wasn't tricked. I tricked myself. I think that's fair to say. I was really not, but I think I like playing with initiative. I think that's why, if you want my personal style, and yes, I heard that JZ Rider more, that you need to think more of a tactics. Though very honestly, the tactics that start with queen h6 here and then go here and here, those are the tactics that are the pretty high level. It's not exactly almost puzzle rush tactics. These are strategic things. It's a hard move to find. Yes, Samadan, I agree with you. It's a tough game to find, tough move to find. Anyway, so with that in mind, I want to thank you all for coming, and I am, I'm gonna show, thank you for. I really wanted to show you these games. Next Monday, I'm gonna show you 2 games I'm playing against Aman Hambleton, in which he managed to defeat a couple of one positions that I had against him. And the idea here is to keep improving. This used to be called Road to 2000. I'm thinking 1980 now. So I think, and I think analyzing losses, especially on stream with you guys participating, actually has been helping me a lot. So I just wanted to thank you guys for doing that. Thank you, Dolman. That's great. And thank you, Great Dane 317. That's fine. I'm hoping to get better, and thank you, JZ Rider, and thank you guys. Yes, Road to 3000, sure. Yes, Road to famous Allometer rating on 2495. Yeah, sure. Thank you. In my dreams, in my fantasies. Thank you guys. Thank you here. There will be at least one stream this week. Unfortunately, I have some IRL obligations, so I don't know exactly when. I'm participating in the big event that Maria Yemelianova Photo Chess and Maria De La Rosa Partenope Chess with Alessia Santeramo. It's a charity stream for Italy. I am supposed to sing, so looking forward to seeing you as there. And this Monday at 8 p.m. is, I think, a permanent term for my best losses on Monday. Thank you guys. And so who should we raid? Okay, who is... Well, you know what? I think the only person who is actually here, you know what? I'm gonna, since Ben was kind enough to come and show here, I'm gonna send him a raid, if you guys don't mind. So just to return a favor, he was kind enough to come in and share some words and not roast us too much. So I'm gonna send you to Grandmaster Benjamin Feingold, who is streaming with his lovely wife Karen. Thank you, good night, and see you guys next time. Thank you. Raid is starting. Good night, guys. Thank you. All right. Sending the raid now. Thank you guys again.